you were doing the county book in Youngstown. They didn't have long to talk.
Ha ha. All right, Cat Shades the Heavy Metal Picker back again. And finally, I'm going to review Dead by Dog Fest 2025, Volume 1 in Youngstown, Ohio. Well, got a good start to that one. Prior to coming over early in the morning after doing fasted cardio and all that, I took a heaping dose of mango Fiberlyze, which is a fiber supplement that I got on Amazon for $30 for a big jug that's mostly full of air. Justin Horval recommends it, and I had to stop 3 times between here and Woketopia, Ohio, that's what I call Columbus, and Youngstown, which is a 2.5-hour drive. Thankfully, I made it to a toilet all 3 times. So I did not have to use the John at all at Westside Bowl. So hope you guys are feeling pretty grateful. The city of Youngstown itself is just as craptacular as any other Rust Belt cities in Ohio like Mansfield or Springfield. But Youngstown is not dangerous. It's just a run down piece of crap. And there is nothing good happening there other than Westside Bowl. Westside Bowl is a spectacular music venue. Great sound, plenty of space, places you can sit down, play bowling. They got a bunch of pinball machines, just a bunch of wide open area. It's just a spectacular music venue in one awful city. So before that, I checked into the Super 8 motel. It wasn't the worst hotel I've been to, but it was definitely the worst Super 8. There were no bugs and no crackheads in the parking lot, and I don't regret going to this hotel, but I'll never stay there again, assuming if I ever go to Youngstown again. I've never been there before, and I don't feel like I'm missing out. I got to the venue. When I got to the door, I was asked to show my ID, and I said, I don't drink alcohol. And the guy doing that, the ID check, and said, okay. And he slapped on this under 21 wristband and put black X's on my hands. This was completely unnecessary, but it also would have been unnecessary for me to argue with him. Whatever. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not ashamed. I don't care. I'm sure they had lots of great alcohol at this venue with pre-inflation prices, but it's invisible to me nowadays. I'm not missing out. I don't care. It doesn't matter. As far as the bands go, I was mainly there for Rotrevor and Malignancy, both of whom were great. I was most excited, of course, as you know, about Regurgitation, but they canceled due to Ben Deskin's alleged work commitments. This matter was covered in another recent video, which actually got my channel temporarily deleted. Yeah, because of the Tales of Necrophilia cover, which I included on the thumbnail. So I had to change the thumbnail because of that. And then my channel was back online within 2 hours. In addition to this, Brian Baxter did not seem interested in interacting with me. But that's fine. I only see him every 7 to 10 years or so. So by the time I see him again, if I do ever see him again, he'll probably have cooled off. Now, he explained in a recent Dead by Dog live stream that he has some resentment toward me about allegedly saying things that weren't true or bashing Regurgitation, which I assure you I did not do. I emailed Brian shortly after this asking for him to explain what I did wrong. If I said something that was not true or something that stepped on his toes, I apologize and can retract whatever I said from the video. However, I got no reply. So if I don't know what I did wrong, I can't apologize or retract for whatever. All right. So I don't think he actually watched the video that I guess offended him. He probably heard about what I had said secondhand. And whoever told him I was bashing his band or lying about who knows what, he did not bother to question. You know, if it was me in Brian's shoes, I would have said, Cat Shades wouldn't lie or, bash my band. So what the hell are you talking about? But that's that. I'm not interested in having a public feud with Regurgitation. Public feuds and drama are for people I don't like or don't know. And since I'm a fan of Regurgitation, I'm not going to speak about this again publicly. But I gave all the other bands a chance. None of them were bad. They just weren't for me. Rotrevor was just as great as they were when I saw him, I think, March the 24th in Cleveland. Malignancy was just fan-damn-tastic. And it was great for me to meet so many people. I met Caleb, who I previously met at the aforementioned Rotrevor show. I met 2 different Jordans, one of whom I previously ragged on for liking Blind Guardian, and the other needed for me to explain what manschitter meant. Why don't I just let Justin explain what manschitter is?
But guys that are blasting serpents of light, man shit, go-getter stuff, that's how they suck and start their goddamn mornings. Then you get.
So there you have it. Manschitter is a Horvalism. A Horvalism is either a mangled word, such as manschitter, or perhaps a mispronounced band name, like pronouncing Undergang as Undergang, or Celtic Frost as Celtic Frost. It can also mean a mispronounced album title, like Intruderine Cannibalism, rather than Intrauterine Cannibalism, or Rites of the Blast Max, rather than Rites of the Black Mass, or Sickening Erotic Phantasm, rather than Sickening Erotic Fanaticism. It can also mean a Freudian slip, like saying Black Dong instead of Black Dawn, or Tagay. That one's a bit more obvious. So Justin Horval's mispronunciation of words is not something that he is necessarily ridiculed for. It's actually a more endearing thing, and sometimes his unintentional humor is an example of his best humor. All right, who else did I meet that was really cool? Oh, Layla Lover 90, pretty cool. Cattle Prod, that's a guy I pushed him, inspired him, like, make a video show, and then he started making his videos, and he has definitely delivered. Condor JC, that guy got a couple gross stories and even a picture with me. As far as Sawed Apart, met one of the guys, at least, in Sawed Apart, and I had a little bit of deja vu talking with this guy, because I said, how come not Sawn Apart? And then I realized, or Sawed Apart, and then I realized that, like, oh, I've already seen an interview in which this was addressed. So yeah, I realized I'd already been in this conversation before, watching it secondhand. There was Retard Belial, that guy's pretty cool. Holt is the GOAT. Will Slocum, he's also from here in Columbus, Ohio. I had a conversation with him, but yeah. Oh, I had another conversation with a guy, younger guy, probably teenager. I think he's Sam Biles' nephew. I didn't get his name, but anyhow, he was wearing the same shirt as me, the Hemdale shirt with the kitty cat and the zombies and stuff from Rad Jackson. And he had mentioned to me that he had not gotten to meet Vincent Crowley yet. I'm like, are you kidding? Look behind you. And there he was, Vincent Crowley, watching Pro Fanatica, sitting in one of the chairs in the watching Pro Fanatica. And one thing about Vincent Crowley that was truly, truly amazing was his sitting posture. He wasn't slumped over or hunched over. His back was straight as a board the entire duration of the set. It was just a beautiful sight to see. And his woman was like stroking him up and down the back. And, if a woman does that to you, it means she thinks you're like the hottest guy ever. So, yeah, Rights of the Blast Max. Oh, I met Chase Horval, and he was talking about 80s nostalgia also, and he brought up the Garbage Pail Kids, and he brought up Chase Cadet. And then I said, oh, yeah, I remember Garbage Pail Kids, and, my real name's Brandon, and there was a Butt Bit Brandon. So that's quite ironically humorous, about Brandon being bitten by a living toilet seat. Oh yeah, there was the Bucks. That guy was quite sweaty, quite enthusiastic, and quite energetic, and it was nice to see that guy that age running around in the pit. I did not recall meeting Robert Greene. That would have been cool. I was hoping to meet the dude from Amphetasaur. I hope that guy isn't dead or in jail. Haven't heard from him recently. Mike Violate. Especially cool, especially awesome, as was Ghoulish Dave of Ghoulish Grin, who gave me a 2-song CDR. one of which had a Ghoulish Grin song, and then the other song was a previous band with both Mike Violate and Ghoulish Dave called, I can't remember the name of the song, but the band is called Cryptic Fog, and it was pretty cool too. And I'd be interested in hearing more of both bands. And anyhow, I was like, whatever, dude, you know, I'll listen to your CDR. And then later on, I checked it out, and it was surprisingly good. I'm just gonna leave you a link below. You can decide for yourself if it's good. But there were only 2 songs on it, so it's not like I could have gotten tired of it or anything, you know. Just give me a small dose and leave me wanting more. So that was surprisingly good. Please check that out. It's so awesome. All right. So I didn't recognize Eric Horval when I saw him at first, and that's because of this picture on Metal Archives, which according to my research is 12 plus years old. Now, no, I did not shoot any live videos. What would have been the point of doing that? I mean, I didn't do any interviews either, because the only interview that I had planned was with Ben, Tony, and Dan of Regurgitation. And obviously they weren't going to be there. And Tony and Dan, I didn't think they were going to be there even as spectators. So whatever. Maybe I'll get a chance to interview them someday. All right, so I kept my phone in my pocket the entire time, which is usually my personal policy at music venues. Now, the next day, I was planning on making a surprise visit to Evil Joe Offrick to do an interview. However, before I did this, I noticed there was a very long, very recent, in-depth interview with Joe, so I'll have to study that first to see if I can ask any questions that are different or better, or to elaborate on stuff that he had previously talked about in this interview. If you don't know who Evil Joe Offrick is, I recommend you start with looking up Evil Joe Prank Call, which is about a guy pretending, it's a white guy pretending to be black. And he prank calls Joe because Joe puts up an ad for a black metal band. And there's deliberate, confusion. How come you don't want black people in your band? You know, stuff like that. And then Joe says things like, it's not about black people, it's about darkness and evil. And he goes, yeah, I'm all about darkness and evil. But, yeah. All right. So what else did I need to cover here? Another thing about Justin, previously in February of 2025, I pitched an idea for a skit to Justin about me playing John Gallagher in the skit, and then him playing the J800, which would have been his version of the Terminator. Now here's how the script goes. So Dying Fetus is about to play, and I'm like backstage in the dressing room as John Gallagher, smoking a blunt, listening to rap music, wearing a baggy hoodie and baggy shorts. And then Justin walks into the venue, you know, with the Arnold posture, the Arnold facial expression from Terminator 1. And he expects to do an interview with John Gallagher. So he goes up to the dressing room, John Gallagher, please, you know, as if, he's looking for Sarah Connor or John Connor. So John Gallagher opens up the door and has this look of surprise, just like the shocked, wrong Sarah in the first Terminator. And of course, when you see things through Justin's point of view, it's like in, not night vision, but red light, or what do you call that? Infrared. So he's looking at John Gallagher with infrared, and then he goes, John Gallagher, and then, I have some questions to ask you, and I need them answered immediately. You know, that's a quote from Kindergarten Cop. And then he slaps open the door, and then John falls backward, in shock and horror, and then shoots him with a sawed-off shotgun. And this is like the scene from Tech Noir. So everybody in the venue's running out screaming, and Justin gets back up off the ground and chases John. John attempts to hide by running into Hoagie City. Hoagie City was a restaurant that recently closed in Columbus, Ohio here a couple months ago, or a couple months prior to the Darkness Descends Festival. And so John Gallagher runs away, and he encounters either the guy from Mordant Red or Vincent Crowley, who says, "Come with me if you want to live," and then loads him up into a van, but first tapes his mouth shut, and then cuffs his hands or ties him up or whatever, and then throws him in the van while the Dying Fetus song "Throw Them in the Van" is playing. And then he drives off maniacally in this white van, laughing like a lunatic while John is struggling, and the J800 is chasing, albeit an exercise in futility, as the camera pans out. So, this would have happened in February 2025. However, I was not at this Darkness Descends Festival in Columbus, Ohio, because I was in Wisconsin on business. And if we were to do any shooting of any video outside, it would have, I led to believe that it was blizzard conditions at the time. And since John has actually confronted Justin and finally decided to stop ducking, and they actually did an interview, there's probably no point in filming this skit. But it would have been funny if it had happened, right? Whatever. Couple things I need to say before I close this video. Some of you have criticized me about relying too much about piggybacking or relying on Justin's material to, make reaction videos. And you know what? That's a fair criticism, and that's okay. I have 50-something ideas for new videos that don't involve Justin Horval. Some of them are going to take quite a bit of effort, and that's why I've been putting them off. Like finding out the 2 guys who shot Jeff Becerra. That's a mystery I intend to crack. That's going to take quite a bit from me for sure. And I'm just taking a bit of a break from consuming YouTube in general, but then again, the only channel I watch with any regularity is Dead by Dog. So I'll be cutting back, or actually cutting out consuming content entirely, at least for the foreseeable future. Doesn't mean I'm just canceling and never want to watch his videos again. I'm just giving content watching a temporary break. So don't worry, you're going to have some more obnoxious questions coming from me. However, you might have to wait a while. Until then, I've got a bunch of fresh new ideas I need to crank out.